if you wanted to play the best footy, you came to Scottsdale and played.
He just said to the rest of the bloke, back to the centre, boys, he won't miss.
I just love to wear the Scottsdale Footy Club jumper.
It's a very history-dominated club.
Attack, attack, attack! Retaliation! Get down, retaliate!
Well, I'm here with Max Hadley, who was part of a great era with the Scottsdale Football Club through the 60s and the 70s. And Max, Ringarooma boy, who made his way here to Scottsdale. Tell us about your early days in football.
Well, the early days in football, I was an old Ringarooma boy, like you say. And in 61, Scottsdale put a team in the NTFA thirds for the first time. And my dad talked me into coming down here and playing in with the junior team rather than trying to play in the Ringarooma seniors at a very young age. So I came to Scottsdale in 61 and stayed there. And in 62, Scottsdale Club recruited pretty good for the young boys and recruited quite a few players from the North East Football Union. I think we finished up with about 8 or 10 in the team and we went state premiers, Scottsdale Thirds did. So that's my first 2 years.
Wow. And then 64, of course, you were part of that fantastic team that went all the way through to the state final and lost a tight one against Cooey. But that really was the beginning of a magnificent era, wasn't it, for the footy club?
Yeah. Well, after the thirds in 62, I played in the seniors as a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. And 73 that was, then Brian Donoghue had come into the club. Right, and they recruited a couple of senior players from down the northwest coast, Manning Gannon and Kevin Simons, to help out the local boys.
Yep.
So in 64, we won our first premiership, I think it was, and I was a winger, played in the wing. Manny was in the centre and Simo Raven and all the local blokes playing around them. In 65, we went premiers again, right? Simo and Manny were still here, and I think we recruited a couple of other players from somewhere. I got called up in the army. My number come out in the famous ballots. So in July 65, my playing days for Scottsdale were over.
So Max, you called up, you served our nation in Vietnam and essentially give or take out of the game for 2 years, but you had to end up in Hobart and spend a bit of time down there, but you weren't lost to football. I believe you had a club come after you down there when they heard you were in Hobart? Yeah,
that's how it sort of went. 66, when I was called up. I didn't train in Australia and spent 12 months in Vietnam. And I come back to Hobart after serving in Vietnam and that in 1968, in about March, I think it was March. And I had a fair bit of leave. So I had my leave up around this area and then I moved down to Hobart to do my last 4 or 5 months in the army. So Glenorchy come knocking on my door. I thought, oh yeah, I haven't played for a couple of years, haven't touched a football even. So that's how I started with Glenorchy in 68.
Who were obviously the Magpies as well.
Yeah,
So you weren't lost to the Magpies.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to change colours at all.
So you've come back here in, 71? You were back with Scottsdale again?
Yeah.
And then obviously still a great era for the football club. But 1972, this was your year, wasn't it, Max? You had a pretty good year in 72.
Yes.
Ruck Rover, you kicked 77 goals as a Ruck Rover, leading goal kicker.
Yeah.
But it's one of the smallest medals in sport, and we will get a close-up of this later, but the Heck Smith Medal, 1972, great personal recognition for you, but I've got to say, you won the Heck Smith Medal, but you didn't even finish top 2 in the Scottsdale Best and Fairest. What was going on there?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't have been popular with the blokes.
But the umpires liked you, obviously.
The umpires liked me for the Heck Smith Medal, but not in the club thing. I think a lot of local, I'd been away for 5 years. I'd come back in 71 and played from Glenorchy and we went premiers anyway, but it was a half-back flank, you know. So I was pretty well accepted back here, sort of thing. But then we had, in 72, we had a pretty good team too, but Bob Wilson had a brainwave that he wanted someone else to go on the ball. So we changed my position from a halfback flanker. I become a ruck rover, if you want to call that
Yes.
sort of thing. And I started kicking a few goals too. You know, I'd never kicked many goals from playing half-back line and that. Might have got a couple, you know. So that's how I ended up. And I must have been popular with the umpires. I didn't think I was, because I used to argue with them a bit. So that's how come I was lucky enough to win the Heck Smith Medal in '72, you know.
Tell you what, if you argued with them a bit, it doesn't say much for the other teammates how they must have treated the umpire back in the day. And the Hadley name obviously is well associated with the Scottsdale Football Club as well. It's and that is part of the Scottsdale, I think, as well. Is there's so many great names like as yourselves, and you've got obviously the Halls and the Lethborgs, just to name a couple. I mean, it's a magnificent community and such great history, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And there's still lots of halls around this area. Not so many Hadleys, but a lot of halls, and they always been connected with the football club and that. And then see, after winning the Heck Smith Medal, I was lucky enough that really good when we won the state final in '73, which is probably better than anything you do individually to win that as a team. Because Scottsdale, they used to always welcome us back here and to celebrate for a few days, and so it was really good, you know.
I know, chatting to a few of the people from that '73 premiership and also the NTFA premierships back there in the day, there was it was like a Christmas tree being lit up is some of the excerpts that I've heard from people because of the headlights just coming back up over the sidling from Launceston to come back.
That's true, because I ended up living out under the sidling in the early premierships. They were coming back too, you know. And we'd all form up on the main street and on the balcony and get introduced to the town, you know, it was great. And the same thing happened into the next era, like '73, you know. So I was very lucky just to be part of the Scottsdale Club for both those times that I played here, you know. Yeah.
Fantastic memories, Max. And look, thank you for sharing them as well, because it's a great story, and you've done the 360 really. You've started at Scottsdale, you've gone and served our country, you've gone down to Hobart, and you've come back and being part of great team success and winning an NTFA Best and Fairest. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you. And I was lucky enough to win the Best and Fairest seniors at Glenorchy while I was there in '69.
Wow.
So
there you go. You're on the boards down there as well.
On the boards down there I am. I've seen my name there.
Good on
I
you,
don't
Max.
go there very much anymore.
Thank you. Well, we are here in the magnificent historic stands of Windy Hill with a man, well, he's been spoken about so fondly for his influence, not only as a player, coach, but for the Scottsdale Football Club and community. It's an absolute pleasure to catch up with Brian Donohue here in his home turf at Windy Hill. We've picked a great day to be here, Brian, but wow, this is my first time here at the old Windy Hill, and these stands, they must, in their heyday, they must have been a great place to be.
Oh, this place used to rock. When Tim Watson used to get the ball, the whole place here used to just rock. It just really did. Unbelievable performances of all the supporters around and all the essence. Yeah, great.
It is, it's wonderful. And I want to start at the very beginning, Brian, because we know that you coached for 6 years at Scottsdale back from 1961, and we'll get on to some of the great moments a bit later. But how did it all begin for you? You were an Essendon player, but you got married. The next day you've packed your bags and you've headed down to Scottsdale. How did you hear about Scottsdale, and how did you end up in Tasmania?
Well, at the end of the year, I wasn't... Coleman was taking over as coach, and I didn't think I was in need of part of what was going on. We arrived at the ground at the club rooms, and on the Saturday night, Max Lethborg came around with his wife Marg, and they sort of said they'd have a drink and welcome us. And then about half an hour later, all of a sudden, all these rocks and everything got thrown on the roof. We were in Scottsdale, and they tin kettled me. It's funny, Max was such a funny person. He, a couple of weeks later, Lorraine ordered a bit of pork, and Max sent around a pig's head. Well, you can imagine Lorraine was a nice country girl. She didn't want to be there any longer. Anyway, we settled in, and the first team I had consisted of the back line that was there in 64, 65. There was Stan Wilson and Bobby Richmond. There was Wish Wilson. There was Donnie Millwood, and there was also Buffer on the back line. Now they were there for the whole run which we had. After I broke my leg in the first year, we had a pretty fair side, but we weren't good enough. These are the players that came into the club. Puss Hadley was on the wing. We had Rodney Rattray on the other wing. He came in. Ronnie Hall is just an enormous footballer, and Ronnie Hall came to centre half forward. We had Peter Millwood on the forward flank. We had Kenny Lett, and all of a sudden we had 5 players that walked into our team. I realised at the end of '63 that you just needed something to do it. If you have never won a premiership before, you've got to be a reason for it. There's got to be someone that's got to help us. So I went and got Kevin Simons to come up to Scottsdale. He paid him a few bob, and went back there and he said, Manny get in to come. So Manny came up, and we gave him a few bob also, and we were all pretty happy. And all of a sudden we had the right team. We had the back line, we had the younger players across the forward line, and we had the on ballers, because we were a very good side. We also had Rex in the forward pocket. We had Carl as our first rover, and Murray Millwood, and Peter Millwood. We had a pretty formidable side. We were very good. We formed ourselves on the style of lots of handball, but we did that from the day one. That got us to the final. We got us to the grand final in '64, and we weren't going to win. We had the better team, but we didn't do anything to win the game. And then Huey Boyd kicked the ball out from the back pocket, and it hit Rex, and Rex was on the mark. Rex turned around and banged the goal, and all of a sudden we knew we'd had it won. We just took over. '64, we'd gone down to Hobart and we played Sandy Bay, and that was probably the best game Scottsdale ever played, you know. We went up to Cooey in the state final, and I actually thought at quarter time we were going to win the game very easily, but I got cleaned up in the second quarter, and sort of don't remember much of it after that. '65, we formed ourselves into a team. We had it pretty right what was happening, and we were always going to win the premiership. We beat North Launceston in the grand final. Then Cooey came to play us, and I said to the players that day, I said, well, we owe Cooey one, but let's wait till three-quarter time, and then we'll fix them up in the last quarter. And came three-quarter time, we were 10 goals up, and I said, well, look, there's not much sense trying to fix them up, because we all want to play next week, don't we? So we left them. I said, just keep kicking more goals. It's embarrassing, the bastards. So we did that, and then we went down to Hobart, and we did get beat by a better side that year. That was it.
And that, I want to go back to '64, Brian, because that was the club's very first NTFA senior premiership. What did you observe? What did that do for the town, for the community?
I can remember when you used to go to the football, everybody used to be around the boundary. Everybody in the town was all there. Everybody supported us. And because we had the players from the coast coming down, they all came down too. They all wanted to be part of the Scottsdale scene, which was very good. Yeah, it was terrific the way everybody joined in. I can remember after we won the premiership in '64 that night, in the club rooms, I just sat there and just watched the people enjoy themselves. I've never seen people enjoy themselves as much as what they did.
We look when you came over to Scottsdale originally, those few years later, Did that make it in your mind that we made the right decision to come down to Scottsdale?
Oh, definitely. Really. Like, just to take how good the people were. That they have a fire. We lost the club rooms. We decided to build the club rooms.
So you literally had the population of Scottsdale, but also outside of Scottsdale, you had all these other businesses that were all involved to help in the construction of these new club rooms.
Oh, that's right. Everybody is involved. We had a couple of weekends, a couple of Sundays where we had to put the floor down. You can imagine we had all the floor cramps in town, and everybody's hammering away there, and we nailed the whole place down, and it was a great. If you can imagine, you're doing things together as a community, and you're doing it for the passion of something which you enjoyed, and then to get the result comes in '64. Everybody had been part of it. It was part of their thing. You had the great characters. There was Timmy Lisco. Couldn't play football for nuts, Tim. Skinny as a match with the wood cut off, but he was terrific. He'd be there every week playing in the reserves and part of the thing. And the blokes like Tommy Gofton. Tommy Gofton was the selector, and Bevan Heald, and they were always there. They were always part of being a club there and making the club into being what it really was. It was just a community, and I think it's a community that the players took into their mind, that they realised we were playing for the town and we were playing for Scottsdale.
And how did you find football in Tasmania? We are a very parochial football state. Did you sense that there was a complete love of the game itself in Tasmania?
Oh yes, just everybody loved it. You know, every weekend you have to go to town. You'd have to go and travel the 40 k's. Like when they used to come out to us, the opposition used to come out there, and they'd come out once a year, and we'd give them a good game, and then we'd give them a bit of a clip under the ear and let them know we had, and then we'd take them into the hotel and give them all the beer afterwards and a bit of a sing-song, and they all went home as happy as Larry.
And so 6 years at the club in 1966, you decided your time was up. Was that in the back of your mind for a little while?
Yeah, I think we always decided that our children wanted to go to school in Melbourne, and that was the decision we had. Our eldest was ready to go to school, and we went back, but we just had the greatest time of our life.
And when you came back to Victoria, obviously this club where we are today was still important to you, and you became involved with Essendon again?
I came back after Scottsdale. I captained the seconds for a year, and then I got invited to come on as chairman of selectors. And when I came on as chairman of selectors under Kevin didn't have the experience of coaching, but I had that experience. And I can remember I kept saying, well, you've got to get somebody who's had the experience of playing in finals. And we did. We got those players to come to Western, and that helped us in the 84-85 time.
And the Scottsdale Football Club is still going strong today, and they've obviously got their reserves team, their seniors team, a women's team as well. It's going very well. And football in Tasmania, do you get a sense from, looking to the future of AFL that the time is coming pretty soon where Tasmania will be a part of it?
I don't know whether Tasmania is providing the players for the contribution to what's going on. I think it's harder nowadays to get the good players to get on their list. So I think that's a bit of a battle. But I'd imagine Tasmania will come in anyway. It's all going to happen.
Just finally, what was your motto with coaching? Because what I've heard from some people that we've spoken to, you brought professionalism, but an enjoyment of football. What were the basics? You talk about handball and I guess keeping off the opposition players. What were some of what do you think you contributed to that club from a football perspective?
I think it was the style of play. We were a very good running side. We never used to hold. We'd hardly ever go back for our kicks. We used to like to play on. We used to like the handball through the centre, and we used to like to kick the ball along to the forward line. And I think that's the way football should always be played.
And for you, though, it was more than just football. It was really about the town, wasn't it? That was
it
very
wasn't-
strong for you.
It wasn't football, but the town just, they just love football. You know, you could walk up the street, I couldn't get to the end of the street without talking for an hour or so.
Well, look, it's been, thank you for having us today, and it's great to be here at Windy Hill as well, and you recollecting the great Timmy Watson, but the memories that you've shared through your scrapbooks and all the photos, but talking today, I know it's going to mean a lot to the Scottsdale Football Club, and I know many people are very grateful for your contribution, you know, with what you did with the club rooms, and it was about the township, not just the football club, but a wonderful part of your life and a great journey. Thanks for sharing it with us, Brian.
Oh, thanks very much, and all the best for the future to the club. And I hope it just goes from, as it's getting better and better again, I hope it just continues to get better.
Fantastic.
Thank you.